Concealed carriers of Reddit. When was a time you actually pulled your gun on someone and how was the situation handled? Have my permit but haven't had to use my firearm defensively. Do have a close friend who got off work kinda late and was going to visit family out of state. Was gassing up his truck when a very large man tried to carjack him. Friend drew on the guy and sorta punched him in the face with a gun. Guy took off as quick as he could. Friend got out of there and then had to pull over to vomit. Pretty common response. Also may want to check out RDGUR concealed carry and RCCW. Sorta punched him in the face with a gun. I'm not a doctor of guns but I don't think that's how you do that. I was once confronted on my motorcycle by an angry motorist. They were upset that I was trying to make a U-turn and oncoming traffic wasn't clearing. He approached me, punched my helmet. I told him to back off or something bad would happen. He started towards me again. I pulled my jacket up to grab it, and I'm guessing the lady saw the grip. She immediately started screaming at him to get back in the car, which he did. The funny thing is that as they drove away, she had the audacity to flip me off as they drove by. I was in a gas station at about 2 AM in a shady part of town. I lived in a one-room basement apartment in a hotel that shared a parking lot with the gas station, so I was a regular. I finished buying my drink and the girl at the counter quietly asked me if I could stick around for a while because there was a guy that had been hanging around the parking lot and randomly coming inside every few minutes for the last hour. I quietly told her of course and made small talk until the guy wandered over to a section of the store where I could see him and the attendant at the same time before I whispered just roll with it. Then I loudly said, "Hey Stacy, name made up. Have I shown you my new pistol yet?" As I said that I pulled it out and kept the muzzle down. The guy quickly left after about a half hour or so. We were both sure he was not coming back. The fricked up thing was she told me after he left they had been told by management they were not allowed to call the cops unless they had actually been robbed because having cops come by randomly would scare away business. I made sure she and any other night workers had my number after that since I could literally be there in 30 seconds if they needed anything. They only called me a few times in the year or so I lived there after that, but it always made them feel better knowing that a friendly face could keep them company if they felt the need. You're closer to being Batman than most people. I own a firearm that sits in my nightstand drawer. Don't have my conceal permit. I woke one night to loud noises coming from my living room around 3 AM. I grabbed the gun and cautiously moved down the hallway. It was my cat. He got into some catnip somehow and was freaking out and knocked a bunch of random stuff over and off shelves. Frick you, buddy. Was in our local Walmart parking lot with my wife and daughter when we were walking back to our car after shopping and two young men approached us and asked for money. I told them that I didn't have any cash and they said that was okay since we could hand over my wallet and purses as they pulled knives. I carry on my right side by my kidney so it appears I am reaching for my wallet when I pull out my weapon. They start running and we call 911 so that the police can get our statements and video from Walmart parking lot. My wife was always against me carrying when I am with her, but now she is fine with me carrying where I am allowed. BTW, I live in SoCal. A buddy of mine got jumped in broad daylight by 3 guys in a grocery store parking lot for his iPhone. He had been attempting to sell it at the Eco ATM and when it didn't offer him as much as he was hoping, an iPhone 8, and it wanted to give him like $180. He gave up. They had been scoping it out and followed him outside. As he walked past their truck towards me in the car, they grabbed a tire iron out of their truck bed and started attacking him. Me being a few spaces down ran over yelling to back off. Then noticing they had no intention of stopping and I was outnumbered, I pulled my gun and shouted to stop once more. 2 of them looked up and saw me, which made them then immediately back away and run for their truck. It being illegal to shoot someone retreating, I kept the gun up and dialed 911 as I moved towards my buddy. They got away, got his phone too, but he only ended up with 8 stitches in his forehead and a bruised shoulder blade. Could've been way worse. 3 AM at a 24-hour Walmart. I was working overnights at the time, just picking up some essentials on my night off. I park away from other cars at this Walmart cause it's the worst one in town. When I come out, 2 other cars were parked near me. I see someone lurking not too far away and see them pacing around. As I approach my car on the passenger side to drop my purchases into the back seat, the person belines it for me. They turned down the path between the two cars near me. I didn't even say anything. I drew, but kept the gun down to my side. They stopped and booked it. I've never been more happy to carry. A cop had pulled us over and asked my dad to hand over his gun, which they can do in Ohio. He did, and then the cop gave it back after the stop was over. I never knew that. Not me, but a friend of mine. He has a CCW. He was picking up his GF from college. As they were driving away, her psycho ex shows up and starts following them in his car. The ex started to get road rage and would speed up then back off, get up next to them and drop back. My friend has the girl call 911. They give dispatch all the info and stay on the phone. They keep driving, waiting for police, when the ex speeds past them, then stops his car, perpendicular to the road, blocking my friend. Ex starts approaching the car with tire iron, fearing for his safety and the safety of his GF. My friend got out of his car and drew his firearm. He aimed at the ex and told him to stop or he wowed fire. Ex continued to approach, so my friend fired, hitting the ex. Ex ran back to his own car and took off. Police finally arrived and were able to track the ex down. Ex was arrested on multiple crimes. My friend was cleared. Obvious they took his gun as evidence, but no repercussions. I pulled my pistol only once. I was working at a bar. I had to shut the event down early that night because of a large fight that broke out. As everyone was pouring out, some idiot pulled a pistol from his waistband and started shooting into the air. I drew my firearm on him and he ran. Nothing else happened. Cops were pretty pee when they showed up though. Worked at a bar as a bouncer. Many of the guys I worked with carried, but I did not. It was a rough country western bar with a lot of fights. About a year after I quit working there, a fight broke out between a guy and his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. The group got kicked out and the guy killed his ex and then himself in the ensuing commotion in the parking lot. Thankfully I haven't been in a situation where I needed to. The only time I've drawn mine was when a friend's house was broken into, and in that case the person that did it was already gone. Most of my friends have their permit and carry, but only one has drawn on someone. To make a long story short, it was a gas station. Late at night, someone lifted their shirt, showed off the handle of a gun and reached for it after telling my friend they wanted money. Friend drew on them, and the person ran. No shots fired. Those both sound like very reasonable times to draw your weapon. Relaying a story from my husband. He was in college, asleep in his bedroom in his split-level townhouse. His roommates were out of town that particular night, weekend or some sort of break holiday. Wakes up to loud banging and the door opening. Then hears odd voices saying unintelligible things, and footsteps. Quickly realizes it's not a roommate coming home early, grabs his weapon, and sneaks upstairs. His bedroom was on the lower level. Sees two guys in the kitchen, no lights on, going through the fridge. He flipped on lights, weapon drawn, and yelled at them to get on the floor. After much yelling on both sides, and probably some pee pants, he realized that they were his Asian neighbors. They were pee drunk, and had gotten apartments confused. This was a complex of duplex townhouses that all looked alike. It was easy to do sober. They had left their keys at the bar and kicked the door in, and were in the process of trying to figure out where the heck their leftovers were when my now husband scared the pee out of them. All parties calmed down and came to an agreement that no cops would be called, charges filed, as it was a rather honest mistake. In fact, the neighbors came back the next day and fixed the door. So, not a life and death, almost murdered or saved someone's life situation. Actually kinda funny now in hindsight, why I specified Asian neighbors. The two guys were conversing in their native language. He heard that, which leads to a confusion and uncertainty to a groggy guy who was just rudely awoken by someone breaking into his apartment, and B, confirmed that the people inside were not his roommates. Sorry about that. Some years ago people realized it was smarter to rob limo drivers who often had $800 or $1,000 on them than taxi drivers with $50. So I'm taking a family to Union Station in Chicago, and a black Cadillac seems to be following me as I'm winding my way through downtown Chicago. As I unload the family's luggage, This guy drives past me and into the underground tunnel at the station. It's mid-morning, so there's not much traffic around. As I pull into the tunnel, this guy has stopped his car, gotten out and is standing in the second lane so I can't go past. And he is a very big boy. I'm wearing a black suit with a white shirt, so when I pull my beautiful black .357 and hold it up against my chest, it's very clear to see. He holds his hands up, gets back in his car and drives off. And I start breathing again. I haven't, but I helped a friend teach concealed weapons courses. He was NRA certified. I was not. I was there because he would have large groups, sometime 20-30 people, and it was nice to have some extra eyes. Plus I learned a lot. Anyway, he rode a Hayabusa pretty much everywhere. A guy crossed multiple lanes of traffic after merging onto the road and almost rammed into him. He speeds up and gives him the finger. The guy in the truck follows him down many random roads. Finally, not wanting to punch it at 180 miles per hour to get away and definitely not wanted the guy to follow him to his house, he pulls over. The guy gets out of the truck, goes to the bed, and grabs an axe. My friend has his gun in his backpack and he sticks his hand in there ready to draw. He tells the guy that he's armed and to not come any closer. The guy stops, seems drunk, and yells at him. Finally, a cop pulls up behind the truck and arrests the guy. Tells my friend he can leave and that's it. My friend did not let the man know he was armed. Instead, he simply warned the guy not to come any closer and to leave him alone. I think he called the police before pulling over, but I have not confirmed that. I didn't actually draw, but almost had to. My girlfriend and I were staying in Seattle for Valentine's Day. Restaurants were booked pretty solid since we made our plans last minute, but there was a higher end place open until about midnight or so as a Valentine's Day special. So we booked a table for 10:30. We were going somewhere nice, so we were both dressed a lot nicer than usual. I'm wearing a blazer and dress shoes. I have my pistol on my right hip. It was about a 15-minute walk to the restaurant from our hotel. The hotel charged something like $20 or so every time you took your car out, so we opted to walk. We also planned on drinking, so it seemed like the smarter option. We eat our food and by the time we leave it's about 12:15. So we get back near our hotel around 12:30. As we are a crosswalk away from the entrance, a rough looking guy approaches my girlfriend who is on my right and starts asking her for money. I step between him and her and he says that he isn't homeless or a beggar, but his car broke down and he needs $60 for a belt or something like that for his engine. I could see him glancing at the crosswalk sign and I knew I didn't want to get stuck on that side of the road. So I told him I'll talk to him as we walk across. While in the intersection I tell him I don't have any cash on me. He tells me that he will pay me back after he gets his car fixed, and I reiterate I don't have any money. He motions to an ATM kiosk and says that I can get out money at the ATM for him and says again that he will pay me back. I notice at this point that he has a pocket knife clip in his front left pocket and his eyes are darting between my girlfriend and I's faces and my torso. Also, he keeps fumbling around with the pocket that the knife is in. I knew for sure there was no way I was going to do that, and we were about 100 feet or so from the hotel entrance, so I just say, "Sorry man, I can't help you." He says again, "I'm not homeless or anything, I have money to pay you back if you go to the ATM." I ignore that and we start to walk away from him. As I do that, he grabs onto the pocket clip a little more firmly. At that point I lifted up my dress shirt, which revealed to him that I had my pistol on me, and he walked away pretty quickly without saying anything. My heart was pounding hard and I was so mad. I was thinking, I can't believe this guy is going to put me in this freaking position. I don't want to shoot anyone, especially not over $60. But frick. Scariest moment of my life, and I'm glad it went down the way it did. Especially not over $60. Honestly, he probably didn't just want $60. He would have likely pulled his knife and demanded that you withdraw the maximum amount that the ATM allowed. I didn't see anyone say this here, but if you're ever in a position to draw and actually shoot someone, never talk to the police without a lawyer, even if you were justified and you're 100% sure you did the right thing. I saw this video on YouTube a long time ago with a former detective who was now a lawyer. It was eye-opening. He was talking about how cops are trained to ask you questions that could incriminate you if you're not careful. Never, ever talk to the cops without representation, and you have better been in fear for your life. You can actually get Second Amendment insurance. It's like $150 a year, and if you have to use they send lawyers and bail you out almost immediately. I had a road rage incident where I presumably cut someone off. I honestly didn't see. He got out of his Jeep and screamed at me at a stoplight. He sped off, and I headed home. I noticed him pull up behind me as I was pulling into my apartment garage a few minutes later. He pulled right up behind me so I couldn't get out. I was a fairly new concealed carry holder, so slightly nervous, but I hopped out gun drawn. He was still stepping out of his Jeep with a tire iron in his hand, which he promptly dropped and got the frick out of there without saying a word. To this day I have no idea how he got behind me after speeding off, and I'm still not sure if I made the right call. That being said, I'm glad I did. I've practiced at the range and on pulls nearly every week since. Just for clarification, by not sure if I made the right call, I'm not talking about pulling my weapon at all. I'm specifically talking about having raised my weapon immediately to kill him. I know that you're never supposed to pull unless you intend on killing something, but in the situation it still feels like a valid choice to brandish. I did not make that choice, and that's what I have doubts about. To those saying I should have called 911 in my garage, LOL. I was in a top-down convertible with my back towards him. Sounds like a good way to get brained like a zombie whether you have a gun or not. Never bring a tire iron to a gunfight. My dad was a security guard before I was born. My mom worked the night shift as a nurse. He was coming home with my older sister who was 1 at the time. At the time they lived in a very bad part of town. He got home from seeing his parents at about 11 p.m. Pulled up, got out of the van and walked around the car to get my sister when 2 guys approached him. One walked around the car and one asked him for a light. His heart sank when he realized he left his firearm in the house. He thought fast and reached into his coat and made a defensive pose. They immediately ran away. He got my sister and got in the house. 2 days later a little girl was kidnapped a few blocks over. Thank God my dad thought fast. It's endings like that make me wish the gun was actually fired. 2 pieces of crap would die and a little girl wouldn't get kidnapped. I was a process server for 5 years. Got my CCW in the final year of my job after I started taking on a lot more work in rural areas where police were at least 20 minutes away. Only time I drew on someone was at a gas station after off-roading all day with my little brother. Not even on the job. We were filling up our Jeeps when I noticed a guy across the parking lot being encircled by 3 or 4 other guys. One with a bat. Bat boy starts taking swings at defending guy's head. Bat boy's buddies cheering on. He got in one swing, barely missed and grazed the guy's shoulder only because he ducked in time, before I drew and chambered around. I will never forget how loud the click-clack of the slide was. I didn't even have to say anything for it to catch their attention. Nevertheless, I still yelled something like "drop the freaking bat," which he promptly did. Long story short, the victim thanked me profusely and promptly left. The assailant made an angry, protesting retreat as I called the cops. Mostly because I was concerned that someone else might have called the cops, not knowing the context of the confrontation. I didn't want to be the unidentified guy who waved his gun at people on the evening news. However, cops were total dongs. This is a waste of our time. You should have let them kill each other. Yada yada. The degree to which y'all are getting worked up over keeping around chambered makes my eyes want to roll into the back of my head. First, gun wasn't on me at the time. Was in my Jeep. In a case, being transported. Second, the level of father knows best judgmental balls attitude some gun people get about non-safety related personal choices is exactly why, while I support gun ownership rights, I could not stand being around a lot of other gun owners or CCW holders. It's like being in a room full of over-the-top Trekkies who look for any opportunity to argue about and be judgmental about the mispronunciation of the Klingon word for sea. Third, was probably the least relevant part of the story. I broke up a pretty serious fight in my apartment parking lot the same way and got the same treatment from the cops when they finally got there 45 minutes after the first call and 10 minutes after this guy is bleeding from his face. I'm going outside with my gun call. Cops had the nerve to tell me I should have let them handle it. Before I got my license to carry, I have only had to almost use my handgun once. My girlfriend left our apartment around 10 p.m. to go to a dance practice across town and 3 teenagers who went to the local high school in the area watched her leave. She got in her car and called me telling me about it, and while I was on the phone with her, I heard noises by the bedroom window, which I was sitting by. I grabbed my handgun and had it pointed at the window until the cops came. They were all caught and arrested. My girlfriend left our apartment around 10 PM to go to a dance practice across town. You can just tell us she's a stripper. Carried for over 6 years, never drawn it once. Thankfully, nearly did when the wife and I came back to our apartment unlocked one night. Turns out it was our friends who came over to feed our dog. They thought we were out of town, but we weren't leaving till the next day. They got the days wrong. While my grandmother was transitioning from her home and into a hospice, I had an alarm installed on her house. About a week after the install, I got a call from the alarm company. They said one of the kitchen windows was ajar. I live about 5 minutes away, so I decided to check it out. I really wasn't worried because the house is really old and the windows either don't open or open, though locked, with a strong breeze. When I arrive, I noticed a light on in the garage. I put timers on many of the lights throughout the house. That said, I knew I didn't put one on in that room. I drew and cleared the garage, entering through the side door. As I entered, I could hear a male voice saying, "Let's go." Go. The voice came from around the corner of the house. Scared the crap out of me. Apparently, I assume teenagers, saw my car approach and jumped out of the same window they entered. Looking back, I should have called the police and just waited. My grandmother was a hoarder and did not have anything of real value. Anything they took would have helped me in the long run, as I had to take many truckloads of stuff to the dump anyways. More importantly, I don't want to shoot some kids for being stupid. I think I was just emotionally fragile at the time and it seemed like the right call. I conceal carry a standard 9mm pistol, and also conceal an AR-15 pistol in .300 blackout. That's my SUV gun. I've never had to draw the standard pistol, but I did pull the AR pistol one time in Walmart parking lot. Go figure, when I was approached by 3 really shady looking gangbanger types. I mean, they were wearing sunglasses at night, bandanas hanging out their pants, no shirts on, literally looking like Lil Wayne. It was dark and they started to surround my car. After walking together towards it, and I pulled the AR from the back of seat mount and just held it between my legs. One guy started opening my passenger side door and I brought my AR up to chest height and he yelled, in these exact words, "Yo." He got a Uzi and they all took off. It's definitely not an Uzi, but I guess someone without gun knowledge might think that. It's basically a short-barreled AR-15 with a pistol brace instead of a stock, which allows me to conceal carry it as it's classified as a pistol, and in my state a vehicle conceals a weapon. As in, if you are open carrying without a CPL, you need to unload the gun and case it before driving. My friend flashed his gun at someone who accidentally bumped their car into his truck door. They started yelling at each other, so he pulled out his gun to threaten the guy. Guy immediately called the cops and blocked his truck into the parking spot. He spent a night in jail, then ended doing 100 hours community service. Also got his concealed carry permit revoked. Good. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.